How are you doing, Ira?
All good. How about you?
Everything's going well. Everything's going well. We got the draft right around the corner here for the New York Jets. I did want to talk about free agency with you too. How did you feel about the moves? Justin Fields is the new quarterback. How are you feeling about the quarterback?
I was all in on Justin Fields, so I'm good with it.
Hmm.
And the reason I liked him coming out of college, and I just think he has all the tools and skill set to become a good quarterback. Maybe he could turn it around the way Donald, Smith, Baker Mayfield, that type of stuff. Um, and I think it's low risk, high reward. I
Hmm.
mean, you get a young guy with a lot of skills. And if this coaching staff is any good and they can develop quarterbacks and they put the right pieces around him, I think he could be a successful quarterback.
It's definitely possible, and you see all the firings that have been going on with the Jets since Aaron Glenn's gotten in here. He's completely, I know they're calling it the culture change, but they're cleaning house of everyone in there and bringing people in there that want to be there and obviously know what they're doing. So I do have some hope in the new regime from what I've been hearing about and seeing about so far, but we also have to make note of that this is the Jets and there's always this bad luck around it. But I am curious, what do you want to see the Jets do with the first pick in this upcoming draft?
Well, I'm a big Jackson Dart fan. Okay, now I just talked about Justin Fields, so I get it. But I'm not quite sure. I mean, nobody knows if he's a quarterback of the future for the Jets.
Mhm.
That's why they gave him a 1 year guaranteed contract. Uh, um, they have so many holes. I think Dart would be a luxury pick at number 7. Um, I have a hard time passing on him because I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. But with that said, I think it's pretty safe to say that you can make the argument they need a tight end, a
Mhm.
receiver, an edge rusher, all that stuff. I think, Aaron Glenn, he came from Detroit. They build from inside out. And I think, if they have one of those two tackles rated as high as most people do, I think it's pretty safe to say the Jets will take themselves a tackle.
Mhm. It's possible. I am big on the tight end position because I feel as though the Jets never address it. I could tell you I'm not going to miss Tyler Conklin. I know you probably won't.
No.
He did nothing for me. This is a position that they really needed to address since Dustin Keller. It's kind of how bad it's really been for this team. And when we look at it too with Justin Fields, imagine if we just drafted him instead of that stiff Zach Wilson that we vouched for years ago. Imagine that.
Look, things might have been a lot different. And I understand the debate about taking the tight end with the 7th pick. I get it. And if they did it, it wouldn't bother me. And hopefully they would get a tackle later on. And I know, I don't believe, what Movie or Glenn, when they talk to the media, I don't believe one word of what they say. And when Movie said that, Tucker's going to be the right guard, um, listen, they got the center, what's his name, Josh Myers from the Packers. They got him for a reason. I know it looks like a depth pick, but if they can't land a tackle or develop a right tackle, AVT is going to be your starting right tackle, and either Chipman will probably be your guard, and Miles will be your starting center. Oh, and by the way, he was Justin Fields center at Ohio State for 3 years.
That's right. And then they got the Garrett Wilson connection. You know how I feel about Garrett Wilson. I'm not the biggest fan of his, but now he's reunited with his old quarterback there at Ohio State. I do like the pressure that he is putting on the roster is that no one's job is guaranteed. I don't know if you might have saw today that he made some comments about Brees Hall that he's going to have to earn his starting job here because we have other running backs on the roster. What did you think of that?
Um, that tells me they're not going to give him a long-term deal.
Hmm.
That's what that tells me. I mean, I love Isaiah. I love Allen and Davis, but I think Hall. I mean, they can only pay so many.
Hmm.
I understand the Garrett Wilson. They're going to give him his money. Gardner, I'd have an issue paying him $100 million,
Hmm.
but chances are they're going to. And Brees Hall is probably going to be the guy outside looking in.
Probably. And when we look at the year he had last year, because it was something that we addressed during the many shows that we did have is that because he gained weight last year with the pounds, and he wasn't as fast, and he had a down year last year. So I'm really not surprised by the comments, and there are a lot of holes to fill. It's going to be a 2-year rebuild here I just want to see competitiveness with this team. It would be nice to get to the playoffs and have competitive football in December, but it's another rebuild now, and we have to embrace it. And it's just, I don't know how much longer we're going to keep going with this team. It's just over and over.
No, I get it, but it's a funny thing with them. The way I look at the season, I want to see competitive football. Mm-hmm. There's going to be ups and downs. Chances are they're not making a playoffs. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Unless something strange happens. But if they could give me a good 6-7 wins, solid wins, they show growth, they play better towards the end of the year than they do early. There's 2 boxes there's actually 3 boxes have to be checked with me. Moogie's got to nail the draft because he definitely is relying on it because he didn't go crazy in free agency, and I can't blame him. So that's one box that's half checked. But the 2 on-field boxes, if I come away from this season with competitive football, 6 to 7, 8 wins, all right, and I know at the end of the season, Justin Fields is my future quarterback, and Aaron Glenn looks like he's going to be a really good head coach, then to me, that's a successful season.
It is. I agree. How do you feel about the moves that were made within the division, especially the Patriots, because they really bolstered up this offseason? Now they have Diggs. It's just, I still don't buy Drake May though.
Really, I like him.
You like him?
He's still got a lot of room for growth, but I think he has a lot of potential. Once again, I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic here. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a good chance we're going to finish last in the division.
Oh,
but Buffalo is going to. I think the Pats are going to be good. I really do. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be a good team. And unless Tua gets knocked out in week 2 and Zach Wilson plays 15 games, chances are we're going to finish behind the Dolphins too.
Could you imagine Tua gets knocked out and Zach Wilson just burns the Jets in his comebacks?
Tua's going to miss 4 to 6 games. I mean, you could take that to the bank.
You can.
And one of the games, probably Wilson's going to start against the Jets and probably beat them. That's coming. But the ultimate thing, and I might just wave the white flag if this happens. If Tua, God forbid, has a serious injury and Wilson takes the Dolphins to the playoffs, I think I'm done. I really do. I don't think I can handle that. That's just way and beyond what any Jet fan could possibly handle.
Well, we saw what happened with Darnold last year, and he got his money. He got a big contract with Seattle there, the $100 million. Unbelievable.
Well, that was a different feel than the Zach Wilson thing, mm-hmm. and we were both on the Wilson bandwagon. I was wrong, but it's just something about him. I mean, I subscribe to Amazon, so I can find video. And, on January, 17th, wild card round, it's only getting streamed. And I turn it on Saturday night. I got to watch Zach Wilson going into maybe Kansas City to play Patrick Mahomes and defeat him. I mean, I can't take that. I just can't take that.
That would make you hang up the Jet fandom. Oh, man.
Yeah, no, it's all done. I retire, finish, and that's it. That's it. I'll follow it, look at the scores, but it would be all over.
He really was an awful quarterback when I look at I know we got on Darnold at the end, but Zach Wilson was horrible. It was almost as bad as, I don't know, is it as bad as Hackenberg was putrid? I mean, we brought that up before.
Yeah, Hackenberg was really, I mean, I remember going to practice and watching him. And I mean, I'm not making this up, literally. He would roll out and go to hit like a little 5-yard swing pass and throw it 15 yards over the guy's head. So I don't know I don't know what they saw in this guy. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
He was horrible.
He was, and he never played it down in the NFL.
No, he didn't. And then in preseason, he had negative yardage when he played.
I know he was so bad.
Oh,
So bad.
horrible.
And you know, another than not too many Jet fans talk about it. And I liked him a lot. I thought he had a lot of moxie and he had a great arm. Bryce Petty was also an interesting pick.
Mm-hmm. Baylor.
Yeah, and you know how his career turned out. But once again, you know, it's a funny thing. I think Petty, if he landed with the right type of coach and the right team, and he, you know, sat and learned for 5 years, he might have turned into something. Don't know.
It's possible. I had more faith in him than Hackenberg. I remember he was getting a lot of flack. You brought it up with the fans because I remember when that was happening. I think there was a game. Was it against the Colts where he came in and threw that touchdown? I remember it was. I think it was on Monday Night Football. I remember one of the games he came in and threw
he got nailed.
Yeah,
he also got nailed in the night game. Somebody took a wicked shot at him. And I was out in San Francisco. And I think the game went overtime, and he came from behind and he beat the Niners out there. And I think Bilal Powell scored the winning touchdown. But yeah, it just. But Hackenberg was. But Zach Wilson was just. I couldn't have been more wrong, and I was wrong about Beckton too. Look what happened with Beckton.
Oh,
you know, it's just the Eagles were smart enough to realize he can't handle the speed rushers in the NFL. They moved him inside. He became a road grader, and he had a great season.
He did. It's of course when they leave the Jets, they find success, which is it's just unbelievable. I mean, there's all these comparisons going on, praise saying that, and it is a realistic comparison. They said Jet fans should really be excited because this is the best quarterback that they've had since Sanchez. And when you look at it, it kind of is. I mean, we have to be optimistic.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him play. I really am, man. I'm curious to see how they're going to use him. I think Brees Hall could probably benefit from him because if they're going to do all those RPOs and all that stuff, Hall's going to get the ball on the outside in space, and that's where we could do his most damage. So I think that's a good thing. The receiver room, I mean, it's amazing. Alan Lazard, it looks like they're going to end up keeping him just because they don't have anybody. The stories are they're restructuring his contract, trying to get that done. And the other guy, Josh Reynolds. So, right now, Wilson, Reynolds, and Lazard are your top three receivers. That's kind of scary.
It's horrible. It's just... And I will say this, I'm not going to miss Rodgers. And the fact that the Steelers are signing on to this guy potentially, they're really inheriting a big headache, big time.
Yeah, I think it'll turn that way, if things don't go right. And the other thing was what's going on over there, and, every day you hear a different story about Rodgers, is that what in the world is really going on over there? I mean, is he going to play for Pittsburgh or is not? He's walking out with Metcalf. I mean, well, what's the deal?
I know you hear all these different reports coming out of it just everywhere. You really don't have a clear answer of if he's going to end up there. And they let Fields walk to the Jets, and they didn't even re-sign Russell Wilson. He went to the Giants. So are they going to take someone in the draft? They just re-signed Mason Rudolph too. So I mean, is he going to be the starter? It's really confusing to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think Rodgers is. I think he's playing two teams. I think the Vikings still have their feelers out there from what you hear, and I think that's really where Rodgers wants to go. And if it doesn't work out, I could see who knows, maybe signs tonight. But I think Rodgers probably OTAs for a veteran coach team start in about 2 weeks. I could see him showing up late May, maybe mid-May, and then playing and signing for the Steelers. I mean, I think he's going to give the Vikings a chance to feel out McCarthy, see if he's healthy, see how he's doing in the spring. And I think the late May signing, you're probably going to see Rodgers. Because let's face it, I mean, the guy, he still can throw the ball. I mean, his his skill set, for his age, is not what it was, but he's still better than the majority of quarterbacks in the league. And does he really need to be there between now and nearly August? Probably not.
No.
It'll take him a week to learn the playbook, and it'll take him 2 weeks to get into sync with what's going on over there. I mean, they run the ball. Who'll be calling the passing game? And, I guess if he wants to play football, I guess that's where he's going to end up.
Yeah. It's probably going to happen. It's going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they'll get to endure what we endured for 2 years. Well, hopefully he doesn't get injured like we had to put up with in the first game when he came here. But how did you feel about the signing with the corner Stevens from the Ravens? Because DJ Reed's no longer on the team now.
Yeah, I was a little surprised with the money they gave him.
Mm-hmm.
I got to trust Aaron Glenn. The guy was a great cornerback in the NFL. So, if it turns out that he's not a great head coach, the guy knows defensive backs, so I got to put my trust in him and think, he's going to get this guy to play a little better than what he did with Baltimore. And I think he'll probably get Gardner to step up his game too.
Yeah, he better, especially if he wants that $100 million contract. It's just,
yes.
I had hope because I remember when Gardner, his first year, he did have signs that he was going to be very Revis-like. But this year, he didn't rub the fan base in the right way. He definitely gave up a lot of big plays. He definitely wasn't a Revis Island of that type.
Yeah, I don't think he was completely dialed into football this year. I think he had a lot of other things going on, and I think it affected his game, and I think that's what happened. And I don't think that's going to happen with Glenn. Glenn, he sounds like Bill Parcells, and I think he's going to run a very tight ship. There'll be no nonsense. How that equates to wins and losses, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think he's going to get the most out of these players, and if guys are not all in, I think they're going to be sent packing.
And they should be, especially if they're not going to be on board. What was your reaction to when the Jets got rated an F out of all the 32 teams in the NFL by the players? Were you surprised?
Yeah, I actually was, because it's a really good facility. I know how they travel. I know how the locker room is. I know how things are, and I think the players, at least the Jet players, I think they stuck it to the organization, because I think a lot of them were really annoyed at how they treated Saleh. So I think they just got back at the Jets that way. I mean, you want to question Woody and some of the things he does, I get it. But, I think those ratings were a little, they were a little one-sided.
Mm-hmm. And a big thing, too, when I look at the Jets, and I was saying this the other day in a conversation, it's just we need them back in Queens. We really need them in New York. I don't think it's ever going to happen. It would be nice, but we really need them in New York.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I do feel that way. Funny thing is, the players, if the Jets, all of a sudden tomorrow there was a stadium in Queens, I don't think the players will care one way or the other. I think it's more for the fans than the players. It
probably, you're right. It definitely is. The fans, because, fans such as yourself, you were going to the games at Shea Stadium back in the day, so you were used to it. Then you had to go to the Meadowlands and MetLife Stadium now. So you remember the times when they were in New York.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great, but, selfishly, it's very convenient, 25 minutes from the stadium from Staten Island. If I had to schlep out to, Queens, that would be quite a long day on Sundays.
Especially with some of the losses.
Oh my God.
Horrible.
The one good thing about this year, well, it's not a good thing because it means we're not a good team, is that there really is not going to be many night games. I mean, I say 2 at best.
Mm-hmm.
the Thursday night game they have to play. But I do think if Rodgers is with Pittsburgh, I feel pretty confident in saying that the first Monday night game is going to be Pittsburgh and Rodgers against Fields and the Jets at MetLife.
It probably will be. They always like to set it up that way. And watch Rodgers torch us that night.
You know, he'll throw for 7 touchdowns and 600 yards. You know that.
Oh, it's coming.
Of course it is. You got to get ready for that. You know, and you know what? It is what it is. I'm one of these Jets fans that they tried it. I get what they were trying to do. It didn't work out, but do I hope this guy doesn't play well somewhere else? No, I don't wish him, anything bad. If he had, hopefully, the guy can finish his career out and win some football games and play well. I never really hold grudges against players, especially if they come from the Jets and go on somewhere else and do well.
Well, Zach Wilson is the exception. That's what would give up the fandom.
Yeah, that would be it. It would be nothing against him. It's just I couldn't tolerate anymore. That would be it. It's just, and as a matter of fact, I just read an article about him over the weekend. He was praising the coach for the Dolphins, and he's a guy. He's going to get the best out of him, and he's going to turn his career around. And I think, oh God, here we go. Add him to the list. Tua will retire. Zach Wilson will get a $50 million a year contract extension. He'll be the quarterback of the future for the Dolphins. It's just you can't make it up.
Oh, that'll be enough. Then you hang up the cleats. That's it.
Yep. No, that's it. It's all done at that point. It's all done. It really is.
I wouldn't blame you. It's just tough because when I look at it, it's another year older, because the last time the Jets were in the last time they were in the playoffs was the championship game against the Steelers. That was back in 2010, and I was in 5th grade. I was a little kid.
I'll never forget. After that game, I called up Joe and Evan, and I told because I knew I kind of had pretty good idea what they were going to do with the roster because they had to pay the credit card because they kept on adding free agents and spending money and everything was coming due. They had to start cutting players. And so they made that big turnover going into 2011. And I called them the day after they lost that game and I said, boys, I said, I guarantee you it's going to be a minimum of 5 years before we see them back in the playoffs. I never dreamt there's probably going to be 14 or 15.
Decades are going by. It's unbelievable. It's been misery. And we came close to Fitzpatrick year and the Rodgers years here, the 2 years that we was here. It was the first time that we had hope since that Fitzpatrick year.
Well, I'll tell you, the funny thing is, we're dumping on Wilson. And the year, so let me get my year. So Rodgers got hurt in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
The 2022 season, that Jacksonville game on Monday night in the rain, the Jets were playing for, they win that game. There's a real good chance they're getting into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Wilson, I think Wilson played because Mike White was hurt. Wilson bombed out. I think Chris Streveler finished that game.
He did.
And so that combination of Wilson was flat. I think
Flacco was there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Flacco. That's Streveler. You had Josh Johnson, Mike White. It's all these different people, I think, and they came close to making the playoffs. And we have Aaron Rodgers, who basically for 1 year. It's not his fault he got hurt, and we didn't even. With a 500 season.
It's unbelievable. It really. I just look back because I remember it when I was a little kid. I had this Jet varsity jacket with the white sleeves, and I used to wear it in the winter.
Really?
Yeah, I remember it, and I had a Jet hat, and it said, and where it said the NY on it, and it was like a circle, like a football. Yeah, I had that when I was little. I remember I was standing out of like an elderly home. I think I was doing some kind of charity work for my school when I was younger, and that was the time frame when they were last good. They, like really in the championship. It's unbelievable.
Well, back to back championship games were unbelievable. And I remember I was in Indianapolis. They were playing the Colts for the championship game, and they were winning. Then a couple of guys got hurt, and then all of a sudden, right before half, Peyton Manning hit, I forget the receiver's name, and then score a touchdown and then make it close, and Sean Green goes down, and then so that game went out the window. And then they go into Pittsburgh, and they just got done beating the Pats, and they went in overconfident. They weren't ready to play. And before you know it, they're down by 20 points.
Horrible. And the defense couldn't get off the field in that game at the end.
Nope. And then Sanchez got hot. The offense got hot. And that 3rd and 6, I'll never forget it, man. Because I thought the Jets would win that game as it was playing out. If the Jets had stopped them and got the ball back, the Jets would have won the game. Guaranteed the Jets would have won that game.
I agree. The momentum was there.
Yeah, Pittsburgh was not stopping them.
No.
It wasn't going to happen.
No.
And by the way, look at Schottenheimer getting the job as a head coach with the Cowboys.
Yeah. It's crazy. It really, I don't know. I want to see Fields be the one to take us there. It's just a constant revolving door of quarterbacks and GMs and coaches. Oh, I just want to see. I think you summed it up perfectly earlier. It's a successful year if you can say that Fields is the franchise quarterback and if Aaron Glenn is the franchise coach.
Right, and a lot of Jet fans will look at that as being negative, but I don't look at it as being negative. I'm looking at that being realistic.
It is, because that's how you know that you have the mold is, everything's built, the foundation is built.
That's right. There you go. So then you go into year 2. Glenn looks promising. Fields looks like he's going to be your quarterback of the future. Now you want to start, saying, okay, we get to the playoffs and start building a team. Well, you got your 2 main pieces in place.
Yeah.
The offensive line will be set. We didn't even talk about the defense. I mean, they signed about 25 defensive linemen in the free agency.
Yeah, they got one from the Chiefs, too.
Yeah, so, they're probably going to hit on 1 or 2 of them. I'm sure they're going to draft another one. Is this guy Cisco, the safety, going to be any good? Time will tell. I'm going to trust Glenn with the secondary. So, and I like Wilkes, the hiring. He's an experienced defensive coordinator. The big question mark is his Engstrand. I don't know anything about him. He never called a play in the NFL. You got to see. It's I don't know how anybody can make any type of predictions of how this team's going to be because there's so much unknown. Because there's guys that never did this before that are going to be calling the shots.
It definitely is going to be a trial and error and test year for this team. And I really hope that Glenn knows I think he knows what he's doing himself, but I just hope that the people that he's bringing in know what they're doing. That's the thing. I mean, we could have, I know that's the phrase that the cancel or the culture change that's really going on right now. That's the only thing that worries me is that the people that are in here, I've never heard of them before. And are they experienced and are they going to be the ones to really lead the team to the path to the playoffs?
Well, the one, I think one of the most important hires that he made, the game, all these teams now have these game management guys that, tell the coach what the reviews and all the different, 3rd and 4th down scenarios. The guy they got was with the Giants forever and was very well respected. So I thought that was a very solid hire. The special teams coach, okay, I don't know much about him. He's a rookie. We're going to find out. Same thing about the offensive coordinator. But defensively, I think they're going to be fine. I just hope the thing that worries me is that Mookie, I know he has to clear up the books a little. But man, they brought in competition from Morstead. He might have been one of the best punters in the league last year. I hope they don't get rid of him and keep this new kid because of the money cost savings thing.
I think you got to keep Morstead. He definitely is one of the best punters in the league, especially with the Giant game. Remember the Giant game? All the punts he had in that game. Oh man!
Oh my goodness.
He was their best player that game.
He was. Did he get MVP of the team? I forget.
I think he did.
I think so. I mean, I don't remember a punter ever getting MVP, but I'm going to take a stab and say he might. Well, I'll tell you one thing: he deserved it if he didn't get it.
He
He was the
definitely did.
he was the most consistent player they had. You
I
know.
agree.
Now, is there anybody in the draft as a wide receiver that you have any interest in?
I mean, no one that's really stood out to me. I keep hearing about this tight end. I think was he from Penn State. I think this is the
Yeah, this guy Warren. That's
yeah
the guy that everybody's talking about. I know.
yeah that's the one
I
I've been hearing. I really haven't seen. I mean, you hear about the Hunter from was it Travis Hunter, the one there.
Yes.
You hear about
Yep.
him, but
Yep.
he could play corner, so it's you really don't know if he's going to be playing more receiver. Of course, you hear about him, but I hear a lot about the tight end. So I mean, there's none that really stand out to me. I don't know if they're gonna. I read something. I don't know if you read about it. They might get Amari Cooper in a trade or something. Perhaps I really don't know what they're gonna do. I could tell you this: I do not like the receiving corps for the Jets, especially with Alan Lazard.
No.
I think that's just they got to cut bait with everyone from that Rodgers era. He's got to go next.
Well, I think that's what they originally wanted to do, but I think once smoke cleared with free agency, and just the fact that they're looking to restructure his contract, I think that also tells you that in the draft, you know, they don't want to take a receiver high. So, once again, they're going to take a fourth round receiver. It's going to be another Collier or so. Who knows? He's another guy to watch this year to see if this guy has anything. But, the one thing in Lazard's defense, um, he played 12 games last year. He did have 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. And what you look at the Jets roster, I don't think, except for Wilson, I don't think there's anybody on the team that's capable of putting up those type of numbers.
No, and I will say this: it's only because Rodgers was. I feel as though because it was Rodgers, it was there too. Because the year before
Probably.
that, the year before that, when he had Wilson as his quarterback, he was horrible.
Yeah, probably.
Ugh.
I think he led the league in drop passes, but like I said, beggars can't be choosy, and if you got slim pickings out there, they might be better off with Lazard than Cooper. I think Cooper's shot. I think he's done.
Yeah,
I don't know what they expect from this guy Reynolds. It sounded like Aaron Glenn liked him when he was with Detroit, so maybe they're banking on that. But man, oh man, if they go into this, like if they don't draft a tight end, at least somebody who could produce, whether it was in the first round or whatever, and they don't get a receiver. I mean, you're really looking at Jeremy Ruckert, and who also played with Fields, but you got Ruckert, you got Wilson. We mentioned already Reynolds and what's his name and Lazard. And then I guess Corey. I mean, I don't think Gibson's going to be on this team. I find that hard to believe.
no, it's there's a lot of holes to fill. There's a lot of question marks for sure. Garrett Wilson. I said I'm not the biggest fan of his. I just there's something about him that just I don't know what it is. I think I don't know. There's just something there. I don't know. He's just always annoyed. I think that's can get on my nerves. He's always screaming. I don't know what it is. And then I think we talked about it too. I just feel as though he's a little overrated.
Yeah, no, I get you with that. He's going to probably get 30 million a year average. I don't know if he's worth that type of money, but it's put up a it's not put up a shut up sign. They pay him his ass. It'll be interesting. It's really going to be interesting. But Fields, to me, this season is all about Glennon Fields.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it. I keep on circling back to that, and I'm excited about watching Fields. And I think I'm correct. He didn't keep the number 2, right? He changed his number to 7.
I did. I actually haven't looked into that. He changed his number to so that's going to be Geno Smith's number then.
Yeah, and Boomer's number. Frank Wright wore that.
Oh, there's so many. So many sevens.
Kenny O'Brien. Yeah, but I guess he didn't want to wear 2 because of Zach Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, well, I can't blame him there.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I would think so.
So many sevens, 14s too. Richard Todd.
Yep. Oh God,
Fitzpatrick.
God. Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, it's funny you talk about that Fitzpatrick season. That was really a fun season.
It
It
was.
really, you had Decker and you had Marshall and who was the running back, the guy from the Bears? What was his name?
Oh, Forte.
Yeah, Matt Forte.
Chris
And
Ivory.
Chris. Was Forte in that team, or was just Chris Ivory? I think it was Chris.
It was
Ivory,
Chris Ivory.
right?
Forte came the year
Right.
after because we thought we were going to
Right.
do better because we were on the cusp.
That's right. That's right. Chris Ivory he had a really good year.
He was great.
Even to this day, I still have no idea how he didn't get the ball more in that Buffalo game, because he ripped off that one big run, and he hardly had any other carries the rest of the game.
Coaching, Todd Bowles, he was.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Did he choke away that game? And I like Bowles, but he choked away that game something terribly.
He did. And Revis, because I like Revis, but there's two things that stay. I mean, it's always going to bother me that he won the Super Bowl with the Patriots, but that game is such a stain on him because of Sammy Watkins just burning him all day. Oh.
Well, the fact that they never changed anything, just left it the way it was also, that was, really, a head scratcher. And even the way the game ended, it was late. There was, 6, 7, 8 minutes left in the game. The Jets are driving, and they were trying to keep a close all game. And they finally have a chance. They're in a solid field goal position, and they kick a field goal there. Chances are they're going to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
And what is Shane Gailey calls for a pass, and Fitzpatrick throws a pass, and Decker didn't cut the route right, and McKelvin stepped in front of the pass, picked them off, and at that point the game was pretty much over.
Horrible. It's just, that was probably one of the worst that and that Steeler game, just horrible.
Yep, and you weren't around for the '81 playoff game against the Bills at Shea.
No, I wasn't.
That was another stinker. They put up in the wild card game. They fell behind right out of the gate. They were down by a couple of touchdowns, and Todd has this massive comeback. And they tease us once again. The clock's winding down. They're driving. You think they're going to win the game. They look at to stick it in the end zone, and like with no time left on the clock, Todd throws an interception in the end zone. The Jets lose.
Oh.
And it was a rainy, nasty, cold day. It was terrible.
Horrible.
Terrible. Matter of fact, the opening kickoff, Bruce Harper fumbles it, and the guy who picks it up returns it for a touchdown. That's how the game started.
Oh, just the pains of just when we look back at Jets history. We need more glory moments, even though it's tough. They're tough to Super Bowl III.
Yeah, well, maybe they're going to get it this. Maybe they finally got the right guys. I'm looking at it that way. I'm really, really happy that they got Spielman, as they call him a consultant, but I think he's very big and heavily involved. And I think Woody's going to take a back seat. That's why Spielman's there, and Woody will take that back seat as long as his patience will. He'll be able to stay within that. And I think Woody is going to try to be a little more hands off these first year or two, I think. Because he's got 3 pieces in place. So I think he's going to do that.
It kind of reminds me of Dolan when they brought in Leon Rose and Thibodeau. They basically shoved him in a closet at Madison Square Garden and got the Knicks turned around to go into the playoffs every year. That's kind of what it reminds me of with the Jets now.
Yeah, I think that's how it's playing out. I really do. And let's hope. We got to hope for the best. Hopefully, they got to hit it on the draft. How I look at the draft, the first 4 picks, you got to find 3 starters.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come away with your first 4 picks and you got 1 starter and 3 guys coming off the bench. You can't do it. To me, it would be an ultimate disaster.
I'm with you on that, and I think they definitely have to go for a tight end, a receiver.
They're going to need to tackle.
They're going to need a tackle.
right? And you could make the argument that they need an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not. I think in the middle rounds, I wouldn't rule out a safety, and I'm sure at some point they'll draft a quarterback. You know, and the draft. My biggest interest is Jackson Dart. I'm a big fan, and I think whichever team gets him, whether it's the Jets, Giants, Saints, whoever it is, I think they're getting themselves a potentially really, really good quarterback. As long as they give this, I don't think he's ready to play, but he has to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And if he sits and whatever team gets him grooves him the right way and learns, almost like how the Jets did with Chad Pennington, and then a year or two from now, the guy's ready to take over. I think Jackson Dart's going to be the real deal.
It's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious to see what the Jets are going to do, and hopefully they make the right move. And I'm with you on that. They definitely have to find 3 or 4 starters for sure.
That's for sure. Yeah, drafts in 3 weeks. I can't believe it.
This year's blowing by. It's already April, and it's still cold out. It's still chilly.
It's horrible. The weather's horrible. The wind. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I've had enough. I can't wait for the warm weather.
Yeah, I can't wait for the summertime. I've had enough of this winter, and hopefully we'll talk after the draft and evaluate what they got, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk after the draft. Hopefully that they make the right moves, and we'll go from there.
That sounds great. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, anytime.
And, have a great night, and go Jets.
You too, and go Jets. All right, Ira. Take care.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.